Since the last update video, I've been very busy working on the map, as you can see. Initially, I wanted to do a whole time lapse of what I've been doing. Unfortunately, after about 3 buildings, I reviewed the footage and I had about 14 hours, and even compressing that down to about 5 minutes was a headache on the eyes. So, as an alternative, I thought to create a quick flyby of the map showing what's old and what's new. With the redesign of the map, there are a few key design choices I wanted to raise with you. I wanted to show a clear separations with the different halves of the map. On the left you can see the white buildings, and on the other half you can see the grey, indicative of the white side versus the black side for starting positions. I also felt the map was too open, and so I've closed off many corridors, but also added some opportunities for the knight to make use of their mantling ability. Feeling that the knight was getting too much love, I also went back to the rook, and I've redesigned it so the riot shield is now on its back until it's used. I've also gone and given the rook its own grenade variant. For those familiar with a concussion grenade, this works similarly, but instead, this will remove control of the piece, sending you to the next nearest available, and lock you out for about 2 seconds. And don't worry, the bishop didn't miss out either. I wanted a thermal effect for the marksman rifle, and to do this I've used 2 cameras. The first camera renders everything and adds a colour filter of blue, as well as some film grain, while a second camera overlays on top and only displays what we want as far as heat. So the player's limbs and anything laid with thermal. And it's got its own unique render effect that I've nicknamed Thermal Vision. Thermal Vision works by adding an override to any material with the layer we request, such as limb. And then the thermal material is just from a shader graph from a tutorial I followed by Game Dev the Indie Way on YouTube. And going back into the game, it ends up looking something a little like this. And accidentally, because of how we've already ordered the override, we have the added benefit of being able to see through transparents, like the smoke like this, which works really nice to combo the smoke with the thermal vision. Next I wanted to come back to our little chessboard. You can see now I've added all the pieces in their traditional position, and that our king is auto-selected. Now I've given the player the ability to choose which pieces will go into battle, of course under the round cap of 4 that's currently set. This will hopefully give better strategy and variety when going into these games. Then I've added a dolly to zoom into the king's perspective. I decided not to stop here, however, and I went back and added some tooltips in the UI to describe what the piece is. And instead of the dull void, I went back and added a sandbox inspired background of the level for the chessboard's background. And putting that all together, when we load back into the game and go to the chessboard, it's looking much better like this. You might also notice there's a tilt shift image effect in the background just to make everything seem more miniature. You can see the descriptions and abilities of our different pieces. And there will be more to work on with this, but here's where it's at. Now, it's taken me a while, but I've started getting very bored of seeing our template for the round recap, like you can see here. So I wanted to spice it up. It took me way too long to try and figure out how I wanted to design it, and what I ended up going with was something like this. I'm just going to speed up gameplay and then show you exactly what I've come up with. And now when the game ends, we will see a bird's eye perspective of what happened during the game from the view of the minimap. And once that recap ends, we will return to our board selection screen. This is still just a work in progress, but it shows you where I'm at and what I'm thinking. How I created this was with a feature called queuing that I discovered from a YouTube video. Basically, data is recorded through our minimap icons. This includes things like position and rotation. Then, once the recording is over, it is sent to a different script, and this script will instantiate a replay object that will play through the data at a faster speed. If you're wanting to create something similar yourself, I can't recommend this video by Shaped by Rain Studios enough. It definitely helped me understand the concept and streamline the process quite a bit. When going back to testing, I was noticing that some games could be a bit monogamous when both players were acting more defensive. So to try and make gameplay more interesting, I want to add a mechanic, a control point of sort. Something that would give the controlling player some kind of advantage. So I came up with the idea of having a control room where when you control the point, every now and then the enemy positions will be highlighted on the minimap and on the board. However, with a lack of audio and visual cue, it was a bit unbalanced. With this in mind, I went over to our UI and created a pop-up to let you know when your position is exposed. It looks like this now. Now I just needed a visual to match the progress or activity of the control point. And this is roughly where I got to. Currently my thoughts are to activate the control point somewhere halfway during the game. Activating it too early kind of destroyed any kind of strategies, and it was just go get the control point because it added a huge advantage. Now you can see how it looks when the enemy controls the point. For now, any conflict of control or even just removing your piece from the control point will reset its progress. So the player will have the decision to get some intel and then leave the position, or to leave a piece there and control the other ones. That can also leave some risk on the unattended piece. If you're wondering how this relates back to chess, well, I think controlling the center of the board is pretty powerful in chess as well. And before I get to showing you the gameplay from this update, I'm just going to fire off some quick changes that didn't make any airtime for this video. The king can now no longer checkmate the other king, meaning that if the two kings are left standing, it automatically results in a stalemate. When the game timer ends, the side with more pieces will now win the round. I've added a game description to the intro cinematic. The thermal vision of the marksman is now toggleable. I've added some more sound cues to the game using a new global sound manager. It works similarly to the player sound manager, but more for sounds such for the chessboard or for the round, the timer, etc. The drone also has some more sounds. The pawn drone can also now detonate with a smaller flashbang effect. And speaking of, there were a few bugs involving the pawn drone in the gameplay you're about to see, mainly being able to see the enemy drone through walls, and the drone failing to get destroyed at the end of the game, which resulted in the round recap not proccing. These bugs have been fixed since the playtest. Anyways, here are 3 of my favourite games from the latest playtest. Enjoy!
Redesigned.